If you're cruising soon, you'll likely need to show a negative COVID test taken within 2 days of embarkation. Quite a task as testing becomes more scarce in some cities. Bahamas Paradise is sending a ship to New Orleans, but it's no pleasure cruise. Meanwhile, across the pond, steel has been cut on the largest cruise ship ever built in Italy. But first, the EU takes the US off its list of safe countries. And one country is already making it very difficult for those in the US to visit. It's a country with some popular cruise ports, too. From Royal Caribbean's Odyssey of the Seas in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I'm Bill with this week's episode of Billy's Cruise Takes. Thanks for joining me. It's going to be a slightly off-the-cuff version. We're here on Odyssey of the Seas, but starting off, the Netherlands has announced that they are requiring a 10-day quarantine for those traveling from the US. Now, this is cut down to 5 days if you bring a negative COVID test, and those under 12 are exempt. If you're unvaccinated, you are not allowed entry at all. So everyone's going to have to provide a test for entry in addition to those requirements, and this all comes after the European Union moved the US off of the safe countries list. Cruise lines are now canceling and moving around sailings and even busing guests who are flying into the Netherlands and sending them into Germany for other departure points. I wouldn't be surprised if more of this comes down the line from other countries. The US does have a high positivity rate. It's hard for other countries to ignore. Last week, the US had a positivity rate of 13.7% compared to 4.2% in the UK and 4.4% in Portugal. Now, there are countries that are more dependent on US tourism than the Netherlands, and they might be slower to adopt these rules. And of course, some countries don't get a lot of cruise-related tourism travel, but it's definitely something to watch out for if you're planning on traveling to Europe for any reason in the near future. Now, back on this side of things, Bahamas Paradise ships, their ship Grand Classica has been chartered by Entergy. Entergy is the New Orleans area power company. They supply power to that entire region. She's going to be docked in New Orleans to aid in the recovery from Hurricane Ida. The power company has been using, or will be using her, as temporary housing for over 1,500 frontline workers heading to the region to restore power to hundreds of thousands of residents. This works out rather well because, of course, there aren't a lot of hotels or other places that people can stay because, well, those places don't have power, maybe the ability to easily shower or get a meal, and they may not be accessible at all if they've been destroyed. This isn't the first time that the cruise line Bahamas Paradise has chartered a ship. In fact, they chartered back in 2017 a ship to FEMA to assist in relief efforts after St. Thomas suffered hits from both Hurricanes Irma and Maria. FEMA is also said to be discussing additional arrangements with other cruise lines related to Hurricane Ida relief. It makes sense. You can take a cruise ship, put it in a region that doesn't have reliable power, water, doesn't have the resources to feed people, to shelter people, and that's essential for making it so that you can, of course, feed, shelter people, get clean water to those that live in the area. On the brighter side of things, steel has been cut for Princess Cruises' new ships. They are called the Sphere class. They've not announced the name of the ship yet. This is going to be their first LNG-powered ship over at Princess, and comes in at 175,000 gross tons, carrying up to 4,300 passengers. It's going to be the largest ship built at the Fincantieri shipyard in Italy. This ship, the first ship in the Sphere class, will debut in 2023, and while details are slim, I'm going to be watching this to see if this is finally the class of ship that Princess sails without cloth shower curtains in the restrooms. It's a little thing, but I've always found it weird. Come on, Princess, it's 2021. It'll also be interesting to see if any major lines announce any traditionally fueled vessels at this point. As mentioned, this is Princess's first LNG-powered ship, but we just saw Carnival Mardi Gras. P&O has some. A lot of other lines are coming out with these alternative fueled ships, so we'll see if any others come out. This news comes, by the way, the same week that Enchanted Princess, the cruise line's newest ship that's currently sailing, arrived here in Port Everglades for the first time as they prepare to restart operations in Florida this November with Regal, Enchanted, Sky, Caribbean, and Emerald Princess. We're going to be on Sky Princess November 20th, so I look forward to sharing all that with you. Now, before the important update on testing procedures, do me a quick favor, hit the subscribe and like buttons below and click the bell to allow for notifications of all our videos so that when we post new videos, whether live or recorded like this, you are alerted. Some of them even from ships at sea. It doesn't cost a dime, it'll mean the world to me, so thank you. Now, cruise lines are requiring now guests provide negative test results taken within 2 days, not 3, as was the more recent change before embarkation. This comes after the CDC updated their guidance on testing. Carnival, Royal Caribbean, MSC, and other lines have formally announced this, but ultimately all lines are expected to update this policy in the coming days. Some lines are now testing guests at the embarkation port. Disney Cruise Lines will begin doing this. NCL is also testing guests at the port of embarkation, but providing additional consideration for guests who also bring a test to the port. So let's say you are sailing NCL, you show up with a negative test taken within 72 hours, and when they test you at the port, you're positive, the cruise line's gonna take care of all your arrangements for quarantine, return to home, and things like that. Whereas if you just showed up, you hadn't been tested, and then you test positive at the port, it may not be that easy. Carnival did say that they plan to offer testing at the port as a paid option, but they didn't yet have details on how this is going to work or when it's going to happen. It's a lot to pull together, kind of last minute, so stay tuned for that. Now, the closer you are tested, the closer in your test embarkation, the less chance that you're letting someone board during the incubation period when someone may be infected but isn't offing virus yet. They're not shedding virus, so they're not going to test positive. That's how, when you see these cases on ships, you say, well, geez, if everyone's tested, how's that possible? They became infected, but they're not yet shedding virus. When they got tested, then they're on the ship. So doing testing closer in absolutely will reduce the number of times that happens, and that's a good thing. But I also appreciate that it's very difficult for those guests that are traveling far to get to the ship, or even I live in South Florida, but testing is difficult to come by in South Florida. So we'll see as testing gets more streamlined at the port and other testing options become available. Either way, you should get tested before traveling to the cruise for public safety and to reduce the odds of you wasting your time and money. You don't want to infect, as I said on another video, an entire Airbus of people not knowing because you were positive you didn't get tested until you get to the port of embarkation. Again, it's not easy to come by in some areas. Royal Caribbean is accepting some tests that are observed via telehealth, and rapid testing is available at most airports, including those in South Florida. So the airport testing would be a great plan B. In fact, boarding Odyssey of the Seas today, I saw some people being referred to that because they didn't have the proper documentation of their tests. Please be sure to follow along as we spend the next week on Royal Caribbean's Odyssey of the Seas. You can find information and photos from our journey as well as other cruise information over at cruisehabit.com, and of course by following us on social media. Just search Cruise Habit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and of course be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. We look forward to talking ship with all of you again real soon.